Hey there. Subscribe to my channel. And also press this bell icon.
The hallway was quiet, almost too quiet, the kind of silence that made every sound feel louder than it should. Emma stood there with one hand resting gently on her stomach, still barely believing what her body had begun to do. 6 weeks. That was all. 6 fragile, miraculous weeks since she had seen the faint pink lines appear on the test in the bathroom. 6 weeks since her entire world had shifted in a way she hadn't even had time to fully understand. She hadn't told anyone yet. Not her friends. Not her mother. Not even her husband. Not yet. It wasn't because she didn't want to. It was because she wanted the moment to be perfect. She imagined telling him over dinner, maybe with a small box and a note inside. She imagined the way his face would change, the surprise, the joy, the way he would pull her into his arms and promise her that everything was going to be okay. Emma smiled softly at the thought, then flinched as voices drifted through the slightly open door at the end of the hall. It was her husband's voice. Daniel. She hadn't meant to listen. She had just been walking past, on her way to the bedroom, when she heard him speaking in a tone she didn't recognize. Low, tight, almost cold. She slowed without meaning to. I can't do this anymore. Emma froze. Her breath caught in her chest, her fingers curling slightly against her sweater. Daniel was on the phone, that much was clear. She could hear another voice, muffled and indistinct, but it was his words that rooted her to the spot. I've tried, he continued, his voice strained. I really have, but I feel trapped. Trapped. The word echoed painfully in her mind. Her heart began to pound, not fast, but heavy, like each beat carried a weight she wasn't ready to lift. She took a step closer to the door, her rational mind screaming at her to stop, to give him privacy, to walk away. But her feet didn't listen. There was a pause, then Daniel spoke again. I don't love her anymore. 5 words. Simple. Clean. Devastating. Emma felt like the floor had vanished beneath her. Her hand flew to her mouth as if she could physically stop the sound from entering her ears, as if she could rewind time by sheer will. Her knees weakened, and she leaned against the wall to keep from collapsing. I don't love her anymore. For a moment, everything inside her went numb. The joy she had been carrying quietly for days shattered into sharp, jagged pieces. The future she had been imagining, late-night feedings, shared laughter, tiny clothes folded carefully into drawers, crumbled before it had even been spoken aloud. She didn't hear the rest of the conversation. The words blurred together, meaningless noise against the roaring in her head. When she finally moved, it was slow and silent, her body acting on instinct alone as she retreated down the hallway and into the bedroom, closing the door behind her as gently as possible. She sank onto the edge of the bed and stared at the opposite wall. 6 weeks pregnant, and suddenly, completely alone. That night, Emma didn't sleep. She lay on her side, facing away from Daniel when he eventually joined her in bed, her eyes open in the dark, every muscle tense. He reached for her at one point, draping an arm around her waist out of habit, and she nearly cried at the familiar weight of it. Did he mean it? She wondered. Had he been talking about her? Or had she misunderstood? But the words were clear. Too clear. I don't love her anymore. The next morning, Daniel acted as if nothing had happened. He kissed her cheek before leaving for work, asked if she wanted coffee, reminded her to lock the door. The normalcy of it all felt cruel, like he was playing a role in a life that was already slipping away. Emma watched him leave, then slowly sank into a chair at the kitchen table. She thought about the baby. About the tiny heartbeat she had seen on the screen just 2 days ago, flickering like a promise. About how she had whispered, I'm here, in the quiet of the doctor's office, as if the baby could hear her. Tears finally came then, silent and unstoppable. She spent the day drifting from room to room, touching objects as if to reassure herself that her life was real. The couch where they had watched movies. The kitchen where they had cooked together on lazy Sundays. The framed photo on the wall from their wedding day, Daniel's arm around her shoulders, both of them laughing at something only they understood. Had it all been a lie? When Daniel came home that evening, Emma was waiting for him. He paused when he saw her sitting at the table, her posture straight, her expression unreadable. Something in her eyes made him hesitate. Is everything okay? He asked cautiously. Emma took a breath, then another. I heard you yesterday, she said quietly. The color drained from his face. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Heard me. Behind the door, she continued, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. On the phone, silence fell between them, thick and heavy. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. Emma, you said you don't love me anymore, she said, meeting his eyes. Were you talking about me? He looked away. That was answer enough. Something broke inside her then, not loudly, not dramatically, but with a soft, final crack. The kind that couldn't be repaired by apologies or explanations. Yes, he admitted finally. I was. Emma nodded slowly, as if she had expected it all along. Why? She asked. Daniel sighed, sinking into the chair across from her. I don't know. It just changed. Somewhere along the way, I feel like we became roommates instead of partners. I feel stuck. Stuck. The word again. Emma swallowed hard. Her hand drifted, unconsciously, toward her stomach. She stopped herself before he could notice. I was going to tell you something, she said softly. Daniel looked up. What? For a moment, she considered telling him the truth. Letting the words fall between them like a grenade. Watching his face as he realized the weight of what he had said. But then she thought of the baby. Of how fragile everything already was. And she stayed silent. It doesn't matter anymore, she said instead. The days that followed were strange and distant. Daniel moved into the guest room. Conversations became short and polite, focused on logistics rather than feelings. Emma told him she needed time to think, and he didn't argue. Inside, she was unraveling. Morning sickness began to hit her hard, a cruel reminder of the secret she carried. She threw up quietly, wiped her face, and went about her day as if nothing had changed. At night, she talked to her baby in whispers, promising strength she wasn't sure she had. One afternoon, she went back to the doctor for a follow-up appointment. When she heard the heartbeat again, stronger this time, something inside her shifted. This life mattered. No matter what happened between her and Daniel, this child deserved honesty, love, and courage. That evening, when she returned home, Daniel was sitting in the living room, staring at nothing. We need to talk, she said. He looked up, wary. Okay. She stood in front of him, her hands trembling slightly. I'm pregnant. The words hung in the air. Daniel's eyes widened. What? 6 weeks, she said. I found out before I heard you. Shock rippled across his face, followed by something else. Fear, guilt, confusion. Why didn't you tell me? He asked quietly. Emma laughed softly, a sound without humor. I was waiting for the right moment. He stood up slowly, running his hands over his face. Emma, I didn't know. I know, she said. But you meant what you said. He nodded, tears filling his eyes. I did. But that doesn't mean I don't care. Or that I won't take responsibility. She looked at him, really looked at him, and realized something painful but freeing. Responsibility wasn't the same as love. I'm not asking you to stay, she said. I'm asking you to be honest. With me. And with yourself. They talked long into the night, not shouting, not blaming, just laying truths bare. Daniel admitted he had been struggling for a long time, afraid to confront it. Emma admitted how deeply his words had wounded her. By the end of the conversation, there were no easy answers. Only clarity. In the weeks that followed, they made decisions together. Practical ones. Painful ones. They decided to separate, but to co-parent with respect. Daniel attended doctor's appointments. He listened. He learned. Emma moved into a small apartment closer to her sister. It wasn't the life she had imagined, but it was hers. Months later, as she stood in the nursery she had created on her own, sunlight streaming through the window, Emma placed a hand on her belly and smiled. She had heard 5 words behind a door that shattered her heart. But she had also found her strength. And as the baby kicked softly, as if responding to her touch, Emma knew one thing for certain. She and her child would be just fine.